Jina langu ni Mohamed Ali na haya ni makala ya Bottom Line.
Mtazamaji, baadhi ya maswali ambayo tutakuwa tukiangazia hii leo ni wapi tulipoteleza kama taifa na ni wapi tulikwenda sawa mbele ya macho yako wewe mtazamaji wetu, bila kusahau jukumu la mwanahabari na baadhi tu ya changamoto ambazo walizokuwa nazo katika kuripoti mambo yalivyokuwa yakitokea. Mimi ni Ali Manzu na haya ni makala ya The Bottom Line.
All right, and indeed, we carry on with our conversation today. We're talking about the impact of terror. Where are we now? And indeed, where do we go from here? So stay with us and do engage with us on our social media platforms. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at KTN Kenya and our various handles. The hashtags we're using tonight after the siege, KTN Bottom Line. Also on SMS 22155. What are your remembrances of the day today? And of course, how far and where do we go from here? I want to just start off a very quick conversation with my panel. Moses Emojong, who was the police officer who was inside Westgate, of course, doing everything he could to save lives. He joins us again today. We thank you. We also have Abbas Golet, who's the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross. Thank you. As well as Mwaniki. Moses, and we thank you also for joining us today. And to just talk about this, let's start with you, Abbas. What's the number 67? We've had so many varying reports of this. Do we know the exact number now to be 67? And what of those who remained unaccounted for? Have their families gotten closure?
Well, Yvonne, I think this number issue has really caught people's attention in this country previously and even now these last few days. For us as Red Cross, primarily we were taking care of the numbers of people who are reported missing. What happens is that someone will call and say, I have a loved one missing. I knew he or she was going to be in Westgate, and on that day they were there. So we listed down the numbers and the numbers of people, and initially we even had over 100 plus that had been reported missing. But eventually, I think within the first 1 month, we were able to close the numbers or reconcile at least what was presented to us. Ever since then, we've had that there are more people missing, but the accounted dead were 67. What we also know that there were some remains of bodies that were taken on the third and the fourth day, and even when the whole exercise was going to clean up the whole place, there were body parts that were missing, and it may have been confused to say this could have accounted for 9, but there is that confusion. But from what I can say affirmatively, what was presented to us in Kenya Red Cross has all been reconciled.
Okay.
Now, in terms of KDF, in terms of the terrorists, if these were remains of any of them, we do not know that.
Let's talk about, what you were able to witness, and we'll get to some of those who were there as well. You were first on the scene, among the first on the scene. You've covered so many other attacks and tragedies in this country. How would you compare? What was the scene like? Just paint that picture for us.
Well, for me, I think the saddest part was when I got the first call at about mid-12:30 and that fateful Saturday afternoon. I was actually from my office and I was going to pick my kids from Islamic school on Saturday afternoon, and from Mombasa Road going to Lavington where they were, and then first call that said one of my staff called me to say his brother had been involved in some terrible incident at Westgate. Ali Manji, who still works for Radio Africa, and he says, I don't know how bad it is, but I've been called that he's being rushed to hospital, so I just wanted you to know. So 5 minutes later, I get a call from our emergency operations center, which is run 24 hours, telling me that indeed we've had a terrorist attack in Westgate. These are the initial reports coming in, and there are many people caught in this. So rushing from Mombasa Road to Lavington to pick my kids, and luckily I was with my wife, and driving to Westgate, I think my first contact was really coming near the mall and where the police had cordoned off the area. But they saw my Red Cross car and they knew me, so they allowed me to go in, and I drove all the way to Nakumatt, UK, but on General Mathenge Road, and that's where I just parked my car and left the family there and decided I was going to go in to see what was happening. So quickly walking onto the area and coming to Nakumatt, UK is what I really then felt the impact of what was going on, because by then a lot of people had been killed on the road. Cars had been left on the road with even dead bodies. I remember my first contact was trying to remove a dead family of two, a mother and a daughter.
And when you take a look at all of this and that first scene that you say hit you when you realize this was much bigger than you might have thought, compare that with others and just help us understand, having been on the scene of so many tragedies.
Well, nothing as eventful as this one, because there was still this shooting out going on between the police reservists, the police themselves, and the attackers and terrorists. And by then, even KDF hadn't come in by about 1:15 then. But really, the panic that was going on. And then I remember walking further to the main entrance gate. I mean, there were two gates, the one going up to the car park and the ramp.
Yes.
That's where these guys had, most of the police who were there and the civilians who had weapons had taken cover. So the big question was, what do? We knew there were a lot of people trapped inside the shopping mall, and no one could go through the main entrance.
Right.
So the question was to go up. So, I mean, I said to myself, you know, to the cops who were there, give us cover and we'll go up. And people just thought we were crazy. So I decided, okay, I'm going to run fast, you follow me up. So,
and that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
You got in, and yes, and we have many accounts of people who said you actually personally rescued them. Boniface, let's talk to you. A year after, how do you feel now? Are you angry?
No, I'm not angry. By the way, today we are there at Kalula giving condolences to the families who lost their friends. And I was there with my family. By the time of the incident, my daughter was 3 days old. So it was very traumatizing. So today I had the initiative of taking the family there. And when my wife saw you are planting, you are putting flowers on the people who had fallen down. And we as a family, we have something to celebrate. So to me, even if it's very traumatizing, remembering that day, I have something to thank God for. I'm alive, coping, and now I'm recovering. So to me...
So would you say you've reached a point of total peace of mind? Have you reconciled yourself with what happened 1 year ago today?
Not really, but life has to continue. That's what I'm...
Indeed, life has to continue.
Yeah.
We also have Moses Amojong, whose life has indeed continued despite 15 bullets going through your body. You just recently got back to work, right, Moses?
I haven't resumed because...
You haven't yet. Noura has, though, but you haven't.
I haven't.
How has that 1 year been, just coping with everything? You know, how has your life changed? How has your body changed? How has life changed in general since 1 year ago?
Well, to me, I would say this day is a new day, and it's a new year to me, because life has really changed, and life is never the same again. For all this, I have to say God has been so merciful, and because of His grace, that is why I am alive today. I have to say, I would say that God has been so merciful to me, because this is unusual for one to be shot 15 times and be walking today, meet people today, talk to people today. I would really praise God every other time, every other hour. And I would say thank you to all Kenyans for their generosity and for trusting Red Cross, and they should keep on trusting Red Cross, because it's out of Red Cross who have catered for our bills. I would say God has been so great to me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Tell us about the rescue. Now you get shot. Tell us about what that process was like. Who rescued you? Were you conscious at the time? Do you remember who it was?
Well, when I was shot, I remember to have been shot the first bullet on my left hand, and that one destabilized me. When my gun dropped down, I rolled to secure my gun so that I continue with the fight. And the moment I grabbed my rifle, and when I was almost retaliating towards where the bullet came from, I was shot again. So when I was now trying to roll, get a rescue place, that is when I was shot so many times, and I lost my consciousness, and it took me some time before I realized that I'm alive. And this is to say, I directly met God, and I saw a very whitish cotton wool. And by then, I tried raising my head. It was heavy. I went back down. I raised up again. I was not in a position. And I tried wiping my face. That is when I realized it was nothing but blood. So when I tried rolling, my left hand was completely shattered. My right leg was shattered. And from then, I tried producing some sound for help. And my colleagues responded very fast, whom I told them, please get hold of me and rush me to hospital.
So even after being shot, you were still speaking?
After some time.
Okay.
That is, as I've just put it, to me, I say I met God because that was unusual. That was unusual after some time.
Indeed. Have you received recognition, compensation of any kind?
I would say no, but I've received it from God. I would say God has rewarded me.
So no letter from anybody? Your seniors, the government, the president perhaps?
God has granted me.
The compensation and the recognition?
Yes, from God.
It comes from God?
Yeah.
Has not come from anybody in any formal way?
In any form, in any way, it's only God.
When do you hope to return to work, Moses?
Well, now that that is my profession and I'm totally determined, if I get back to normal and such a thing happens again, you'll be seeing me in the front line.
In the front line?
Because I have to protect lives and property. So I'm very much determined.
What is normal for you, Moses? Do you think you'll ever go back to normal? To what your life was like before the 21st, 2013?
I have that trust. I really have that trust. Just because I confessed that if you take me to hospital, I'll get well. The same thing I would repeat today by saying, I'll get well.
Moses, we thank you, and indeed we do hope for your quick recovery. Let's just have one quick comment from you, Abbas, as we get into a quick break right now. Just talking about the trauma that a lot of them have gone through, and they obviously thank you very much for taking care of their bills. But let's talk about the trauma of the survivors and the trauma of us as a nation, and how to move past this.
You know, as Moses said, in this way, Yvonne, it's much more easier to heal from the wounds, physical wounds. But the emotional wounds, I think, is what most of us as a nation, especially those who are directly affected, those who are wounded, those who lost loved ones, they would live with this for the rest of their lives. I'm actually quite impressed as how resilient these individuals are and how forgiving they are and how they have decided to move on with their lives and to take every day as a new day and appreciate life much more. So this trauma would be with us for many, many years to come. We saw after Westgate, in fact, some people from the American Embassy bomb blast that were now relapsing and coming back. So one of the things we said was, unlike that exercise, this particular one, the counseling, the psychosocial support that has been going on is going on for 1 year now, and it's still on, and it will continue for as long as
they need it.
Yes.
Very quickly, just speak to our disaster preparedness, and if there's anything that you think we could do differently, God forbid, in the face of another disaster.
Well, you know, this is the million-dollar question that every time one gets asked, or at least I get asked that question, and I say, for any nation, you can be prepared up to a certain level, but there are some things that one could never imagine. But I want to believe that today, God forbid, should another Westgate similar attack happens, I think as a nation would be better prepared. And I can say this without fear of contradiction, because we've worked very hard, even as Kenya Red Cross, to prepare protocols for what we call mass casualty incidents. And we've done that for the Kenya Red Cross. We had our partners from the Israeli Red Cross who have worked with us. We then have moved on to do it a nationwide coordination mechanism led by the Office of the President, NDOC, and the Ministry of in-town security. We've brought in military, we brought in police, we brought in all hospitals, we brought in all first responders,
Right.
St. John's, Red Cross, and everybody.
So bottom line, we need to have one of those standard operating procedures in the event of mass casualties.
It has been prepared and been trained, and very soon we're going to have a nationwide drill actually next weekend.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Bascalet, Moses Amojong, Boniface Mwangi, stay with us as we continue. We know you might have to leave us, Abbas, but we thank you for your time thus far. You're watching KTN Bottom Line. How prepared are we? God forbid, should another attack of the Westgate magnitude happen? And what can we do to prevent such an attack from happening? This conversation continues on KTN Bottom Line. We take a short break. We will be right back.